Hello everyone, odedex here, welcome to episode 160 of my S02E Let's Play. So in the previous episode I started building this thing. In case you've missed it, I kind of started to make use of fuel and decided that my next project will be some way to automate the production of Buildcraft logic gates, which are created using the assembly table. Now, to complete this project completely, there are pretty much two big features that I want to add. At the moment, as you can see, there is the production of energy using combustion engines with fuel, which are cooled by water. And of course, they all supply their energy into those cells, which are connected to those lasers, which then can be assembled into whatever I want them to be assembled into. Now, if you know me, that's not even close to being enough. So the two additional features that I want to add are, the first one is pretty much to automate the crafting of gates. I don't know if I'm going to automate every type of gate, but at least I'm going to automate every type of interesting gate that I want to add. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I want to do is completely automate the way those engines work. And what I mean by that is mainly I don't want them to explode for any reason whatsoever, and I don't want them to be working whenever all of those cells are full. So as you can see, there are two big features, but the difference between them is that the second feature that I mentioned, the one relying on filling up energy, is very much reliant on using the actual logic gates that I want to craft, meaning that the first feature, the one that I've said regarding autocrafting the gates, will be the first priority. So that's what I'm going to start with. Now, being episode 160, there will be a world download at the description below. And usually I like to give you guys worlds at a stable state, but at this time I don't really know if that's going to happen. I might have this project kind of in the midway and it might be half working, half broken, but I just want to get this done. So as you can see also right now I'm looking at my oil reservoir, which is running out, so I think I probably should make my way to my oil fountain pump, and before doing anything else find a new oil slick to pump from, because since I'm very much going to rely on fuel now, I really rather have a good source of fuel available at all times. So since this one just ran out, and it clearly did run out, yep, the entire area that was here is completely empty. Let's take it off and move it to someplace else. Let's find another spot. So let's take it away. It should be relatively easy to do. So the chunk loader first, then the two tesseracts, and finally the actual pump. And now to find another place. So let's go ahead and look for one. Okay, found those two fountains right here, close nearby. I'm not gonna put two pumps, I'm just gonna place one, and whenever one is empty, I'm gonna use the other one. As you can see, my house is 900 meters going that way, and the second fountain was 700 meters going in that direction, so it's relatively far away from where I've just been. But yeah, since this is where I found one, this is simply where I'm gonna place one. So let's have the pump on the top of the origin of the oil. So build a small platform to build around, and let's set it up. So that will be an energy tesseract, that will be a pump, that will be a liquid tesseract, and finally a chunk loader. By default, the chunk loader will load the radius of 2 on squared, that's fine. The liquid tesseract will be pumping oil, it will be sending only. And the energy tesseract will be my Buildcraft energy, and that will be also sending only. And as you can see, it's starting to pump oil. I'm gonna mark it with a new waypoint, so that will be oil fountain. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and delete the actual previous waypoint, which is not this the color, the other color, which is this one. So remove this one, done. So deleted the previous waypoint, you can see it's gone. So now this will be pumping, and whenever I run out of oil again, I'm gonna have to deal with it manually. This is the kind of things that at the moment there isn't really a way to fully automate this. Not as far as I know. Oil collection is something that you're always going to have to deal with manually. Of course, I can have a bunch of pumps deployed all at the same time, and since I have a limited amount of buffer space for oil, obviously none will go to waste, so it's going to last for a longer period of time, but still it all has to be done manually. So this is the kind of things that, even though I really like automating everything, there is no solution for. Okay, so before I start with anything, I actually need to make a couple of changes as a result of my future projects. And the first one being adding 2 more redstone cells and 2 more lasers. So instead of having 8, I'm going to have 10. So this is something I'm quickly going to do off screen. It's going to be very simple because I've implemented everything into my applied logistics network. So I'm going to wait for these 2 cells to finish and also get 2 more lasers. Okay, just a quick change that I want to do, kind of not related, quickly, because lately I've been using a lot of hardened glass and a lot of electroingots and all of that good stuff, and since all of them are reliant on smelting through an induction furnace which cannot be sped up in any way, shape or form, it always keeps me delayed. So I want to do implement 2 more self-resupplying system that I've already got in my basement. Unlike my previous self-resupplying system, they're going to rely on already existing interfaces, and you're going to quickly understand why. I'm going to need 2 export buses and 2 level emitters. I'm going to need, of course, an hardened glass to work with, and also an electrum ingots to work with. Because every time I'm crafting something, it kind of keeps me delayed, and it's very, very annoying. So I'm gonna use those 2 interfaces right here, and I don't have to use. So usually a self-resupplying system consists of a level emitter, an export bus, and an interface. Of course, the interface can be used for, in theory, 6 of those systems, because every face just needs to be available for an export bus. So it's fine. I can just use those 2 because it's, as you can see, it's very conveniently can be connected like this. All 4 of them are not exactly connected. You just need to connect these 2 export bus to the rest of the system, because at the moment they're not connected. So I'm going to do that using some cable. Just connect it from the top like so. And now those export buses are also connected to the rest of the system, so that's fine. So what am I doing? So for the first one, I'm going to check. I'm going to emit when I have less than 128, which is 2 stacks of hardened glass. And this one is going to emit when I have less than 128 electrum ingots. Again, 2 stacks, and then the export bus will be only crafting items, only with a signal. This one will be electrum ingots, and same with this one, only crafting hardened glass. Hopefully, they shouldn't interfere with each other. Oh yeah, they might interfere with each other. Okay, that's kind of bad. Or actually, one process is going to stop before the other one. Okay, it seems to be fine. Okay, one of them, the electrum process stopped because the hardened glass took over. Okay, I guess it's fine. Really hope it is. But I have to keep a close eye on this to make sure that it's not broken. This is the problem that I fear sometimes when I use 2 recipes or more on one machine, when I use interface recipes, all the custom recipes from Planet Logistics, but it seems to be doing fine at the moment. If it will have a problem, I'm gonna fix it. Okay, so let's change what I'm going to be changing. So these 2 go away, this one goes away, this laser goes away, and this one as well. So what I'm going to do is actually expand this array to be, instead of this weird shape, it's gonna be 2 by 5. So it's still kind of symmetrical. I had a problem previously that I wanted to keep everything symmetrical, but I had a problem. Now it's symmetrical because the number changed. The amount of combustion engines will not change, it will still stay the same. There shouldn't be any problem with that, I hope. And now that everything will be set up, I can actually, hopefully, start setting up the automatic crafting. And done. Okay. So let me explain what my plan is. So I'm gonna start by saying that I actually did a little bit of testing on a separate test world, and so far it seems to be doing pretty good. And as far as I'm concerned, my design should be working, but there are always surprises. So I never will know until it works, but it should work. So again, as I've said, the first project will be Autocrafting gates. Okay, so let's kind of set a goal. I want to have, at the moment, the recipes to create up to and including golden end gates and golden OR gates. As far as functionality, diamond gates, as far as I know, don't have any difference from golden gates. The only difference is you simply have more options. Instead of having 4 rules, you can set up to 8 rules, which is a lot. It's kind of useful, but it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't make any difference. So what I'm gonna be bothered with mostly will be golden gates, golden end gates and golden OR gates. Now, the entire process of autocrafting is gonna rely on very specific property that assembly tables have. And that is, I'm actually going to need some sort of an interface to an applied logistic network. So let's set up something about it first. Yeah, let's actually do that. Do I have a wireless? Let's get a wireless access point available. That will be nicer, and also get a bunch of cables. So let's connect it from here, going upwards. Let's actually do this first. So they're minimizing the amount of updates that are being forced onto the system. So let me quickly get something connected. Okay, so it should be looking relatively okay, and then can I have my wireless access point right here with the upgrades, although since I'm really close it doesn't make any difference. Okay, so my plan is kind of relying on a very basic rule. The assembly table, when you give it a recipe and you tell it to do something, it will always remember that you want to craft that. And what I mean by that is, for example, at the moment let's turn off the recipe for redstone chipset. Should turn, yeah. Redstone chipset. At the moment, I have the materials to craft it, but I told my assembly table not to craft it. Now, the special property about the assembly table is when you do tell it to craft it, for example, at the moment it will always try to craft a redstone chipset. No matter if I run out of redstone or not, it will always continue to craft it for every time I give it the required materials to craft it again. Now, it might be a little bit hard to understand, but that small property is actually very useful for me, because this way I can pretty much apply any type of automatic recipe that I want, if I do it correctly. So let's begin with crafting golden OR gates. Now, as always, I'm going to go from the end to the beginning. So to craft the golden OR gates, I need both a redstone chipset and a golden end gate. To craft a redstone chipset, I need a redstone. So let's do it like this. This chest will be the output of everything that comes out of it. So as a result, I'm going to need an import bus directly from the chest into my applied logistics network. Now, I cannot directly connect it to any applied logistics bus. It has to be directly connected to an inventory, because that's simply how the Buildcraft assembly table works. So I'm not going to fight with it. Since it outputs all the output into an adjusted inventory, I'm going to simply import from it whatever comes into it. So this will be importing at all times, one stack at a time. Okay, and the other thing I want you to take care of is how exactly do I input items into the system. And with that, I'm going to have to implement some Buildcraft pipings, and I'm quickly going to explain why. I'm going to use an obsidian transport pipe, and I'm going to get a relay. I'm going to get a couple of relays because I'm probably going to use a few of them, and I'm going to need an interface, an ME interface. Pretty much one for every 8 recipes. Probably only going to need 1 relay at the moment. I don't think I'm going to need any more than that. Okay, so I could, in theory, directly do this thing. If this relay is directly facing this assembly table, in theory it could be working. But what I mean by that is that any item that goes into the relay will indeed be pushed into the assembly table. But the problem is because the relay is also an inventory, the assembly table may very well try to push the output into the relay and actually loop back into the assembly table. And there we go, it just happened. I don't know if it's something about luck or the direction everything is facing, but instead of pushing it into the chest, it pushes it directly into the assembly table. So a very simple solution, really simple to do. Just instead of placing the relay directly, simply have an obsidian pipe and the relay facing into the obsidian pipe, just like this. Very simple. Solve the problem. The assembly table will prefer, I'm pretty sure it will prefer an inventory over a pipe. I don't even know if you can push into a pipe, but it doesn't really matter. This will work. So right here, what I'm going to do is place my ME interface and start creating the recipes. So let's create the first recipe. The first recipe is creating the redstone chipsets, the redstone, whatever it's called. So I'm going to need one of them on me to create the custom recipe. Let's have all 7 or just one. I'm going to need a blank pattern as always. And that custom recipe will say that if you give me 1 redstone, I'll give you back a redstone chipset. Now of course, the recipe doesn't concern itself with the amount of energy required. It doesn't care. It's not a part of the problem. It's a part of the solution. So this being here connected with a cable will now be able to give me redstone chipsets. And let's actually test it out. So let's pull all the existing redstone chipsets out of the system. Now I can see there is a crafting recipe. So if I ask for one, it will dump the redstone in here, dump it into the obsidian pipe. The assembly table will craft it. This actually is a mistake, shouldn't be here. And whenever it finishes, it's going to push the output into this chest right here. And if I look in my ME terminal, I now have a redstone chipset. So this is pretty much how you can autocraft whatever you want. Now, there is still kind of the slight chance of having crisscrossing recipes, just the same problem that I just had with the hardened glass and the electrum ingots, but I don't think it should be a problem. I don't think it should be a problem, but again, I don't really know. It's something that will simply require a little bit of testing. But with that said, I can now pretty much implement the rest of whatever I need. So what I'm also going to need, again, since I'm going to go for golden OR gates and golden AND gates, for a golden AND gate, there is the recipe using a redstone chipset and a golden OR gate. That's kind of irrelevant. What I'm going to need is create a redstone golden chipset. And what's the recipe for a golden OR gate? Okay, this is actually might build a bit of a problem. Let me explain why. But I can solve that. Oh yeah, I can solve that, I think. Let me show you what's the problem. Okay, let's actually first let's get the auto-crafting of wires done. So, let's see, to get wires done, these wires, I need red pipe wire and blue pipe wire. Right? Yeah. I'm going to need the redstone golden chipsets and the red pipe wire and the blue pipe wire. Okay, this is actually a little bit of a problem. I'm going to need to use a different assembly table because, okay, this is the problem. Since this recipe also uses redstone and the redstone chipset recipe will always be enabled, the moment I dump the materials to craft that, both of the materials, both the red wire and the redstone, the assembly table will not know what exactly do I want. It will try to create both of them, and I will not be able to control which. Now, obviously, since it has the materials for the more complicated recipe, kind of air quoting here because that's not exactly the case, but still, it will not exactly care. Now, which priority is higher, I don't know, but since it might create the recipe which I'm not interested in, to keep it simple, I just need another assembly table. Very simple. So let's get that one made. So I'm going to need, what's the recipe for assembly table? I actually forgot. Diamond gear, and a redstone, and some obsidian. So let's get a diamond gear, diamond, obsidian, and the diamond gear again, and get one assembly table ready. I might need a few more actually, I just realized that, but we're about to see if that's indeed the case. If it is, I'm gonna manage without too much trouble. So to minimize the amount of inventories, let's simply have the assembly table right here. Those lasers shouldn't have any problem interacting with any of them. So this assembly table will be right here. Let's say to begin with, this will be creating the red pipe wire. So that means I'm also going to need an additional obsidian pipe. It's a whole different system. So one additional obsidian pipe. And since I'm already here, let's actually create the recipe to craft the red pipe wire. Which actually, what does it require? I don't know. Uses for golden chipset is this, red pipe wire. Okay, redstone, iron nugget, ooh, and a coloring. That might be a problem. I'm going to make sure that I always have enough rose red. This is potentially a problem because I don't really know how to farm them. Okay, I'm gonna ignore that for now, but I might need to fix something. I do have a lot of bees which create a lot of flowers, but I'm not 100% sure on how exactly can I farm those flowers. Okay, I'm gonna have to ignore this for now, but I'm gonna need to take care of this eventually. Let's assume this is fine at the moment. Okay, so let's create the recipe. To create the red pipe wire, I'm going to need, let's get some, do I happen to have any of it actually available? So I can, yeah, I have some. Okay, so the custom recipe is very simple. Simply give me rose red, redstone, and a piece of iron, and I will give you back 8 of those red pipe wires and encode that recipe. Okay, awesome. Let's try and clear my inventory a little bit. To actually get it done, I'm going to do the interface. So let's start creating a bunch of them. I might start using them a little bit more at the moment. So another interface, I got another obsidian transport pipe, and I will need an additional relay. Okay, so let's set it up properly. Let's get the obsidian transport pipe. I can place it on the top, but at the moment I'll avoid doing that. Let's place it kind of in the same place. It will look a little bit nicer. This can go away. That will be a relay. No, it cannot be a relay. Okay. Let's move this away from here. Whoops. That will be transport pipe. That will be a relay. And it will be connected just like this. And it will have the recipe to create the red pipe wire. Alright, awesome. So now I can create both of them. Again, let's test it out. Let's ask for some red pipe wire. Can ask for 8. It will obviously create more. And again, I need to set it up as a crafting recipe. As you can see, it created it very fast because it's a simple recipe. And now I have red pipe wire on Autocrafting. I will need to fix the problem with my rose red, but I'm going to figure out how to do this, and that's not yet the phase. Okay, so let's continue with the golden ore gates. To craft them completely, I've got red pipe wire. We'll need blue pipe wire as well. And actually, this recipe is easier to implement. I can use the same existing assembly table because this recipe also have the redstone as a crisscrossing regent, like it can be used for both recipes, but since it will have only redstone, lapis, and iron at any given time, it won't affect it. It won't try to create the other one because it can't. So let's get some redstone, some lapis. Lapis is not a problem, so that's fine. Redstone, lapis, and iron. You give me that, I'll give you back 8 colored cables, 8 of the blue ones. And with that recipe, you can simply dump it into here. And that will give me the encoded pattern for blue pipe wire. Again, let's give it a test. And let me explain why I can actually use it. And you know what? The best example will simply try to craft it, and you will see that it doesn't interfere. So I've actually added the recipe, yet it doesn't show. Oh, blue pipe wire. I ask for it to craft the material. It dumps the materials, but it can't craft the red pipe wire because it doesn't have the red color. it has the redstone, it has the iron, but it doesn't have the red color. It doesn't have the rose red. So it cannot craft the material even if I really want to. So that's not a problem. This is why I can use them both at the same assembly table. I actually realized that I might not need the redstone chipset. Let's make sure. I probably was looking simply the wrong recipe, and yeah, as a result it might not be necessary. Yeah, I kind of was looking at the shapeless crafting instead of this crafting, so it probably was a little bit of a mistake. I'm going to the redstone golden chipset. So that's very simple. Just add gold to the redstone and just change the recipe. So let's take care of that. I'm actually going to take the recipe out of here since I don't really know if I need the normal redstone chipset for anything. So I'm simply going to take it away from here. And also introduce a gold ingot to the recipe. Very simple to do, very easy. Just simply place the blank pattern here and just add gold and modify the output to be golden chipset and encode it again. No problem, very easy to do. So with that here, can now replace it here. I now have the recipes to create, let's see. Now I have the recipe to create both red pipe wire, blue pipe wire, and a redstone golden chipset, which all can result in a golden OR gate. But here is the problem. If I place all three materials in here, if I place a blue pipe wire, a red pipe wire, and a golden chipset, here is the problem. Since I want an autocrafting recipe for both of them, this is where the problem begins. I cannot actually do that. That's a problem. Because since I'm going to have the recipe turned on for both of them, the assembly table will not really know what did I mean. Did I mean the AND gate? Did I mean the OR gate? What did I mean? So for that solution, I could use two separate assembly tables, and I actually am considering to do that. But I could also use this recipe, that using a redstone chipset in combination with the AND gates, I can actually crisscross in between them, like investing redstone chipset. Either way, as you can see, it's two vice versa recipes. Like you can change it between them to give you the other type of gate. But I think, you know what, it will be kind of smarter thing to do to simply separate the recipes in between using this assembly table and this assembly table. I might change that in the future, but I think I kind of find it a lot easier. But you know what? I might... Oh no, actually I have to do it. Since I'm using the golden redstone chipset, I cannot have the recipe for another chipset, or I can use an additional assembly table, but I cannot have the recipe for the normal redstone chipset in any of those assembly tables. Because both of those assembly tables use a recipe that uses redstone, and when the redstone comes in, again, I'm coming back to the same old problem that the assembly table doesn't really know what did I mean. Did I mean this recipe or this recipe? So let's just put it simply. I'm going to have two separate recipes and simply distribute them between the two separate assembly tables. So I'm going to need to have an example for both outputs. I'm going to have an example of an AND gate, an example of an OR gate. So let's actually create one manually. So let's create one AND gate and already have a bunch of OR gates. So far I've used a lot of OR gates, but this is going to change. I'm going to do a lot of AND gates actually. This is the surprise. So for both of them, you need, of course, a blank pattern. You need the red pipe wire, the blue pipe wire, and a golden chipset. Now, since this is a custom recipe, I'm going to need to implement both manually. So this creates a golden AND gate. This will create a golden OR gate. And I'm going to separate them, place them on two separate interfaces. Let's place some torches here. Just realized that this place is not lit up, and having a creeper exploding isn't that great. Okay, so let's have, say, this golden AND gate here and the golden OR gate here. And just to check it out, let's ask the system to craft either one. So let's try and create a golden AND gate. It will dump the... Ooh, what's going on? Oh, it's creating... Disable this recipe. And I forgot to turn on this recipe. Okay, I'm getting confused, and the fact that the night is coming down is scaring me. Okay, just a bunch of weird things just happened. I need to relax a little bit. Okay, what just happened? Okay. Why do those assembly tables have a bunch of interlacing recipes which make no sense whatsoever? Okay, this has the pattern to create OR gates, so let's set it up. This creates OR gates, if it can. All the lasers now being used for this assembly table. And this will create... let's give it the time to finish. Okay, and this will create, when possible, AND gates. Now, as you can see, there is the potential problem of I cannot create too many recipes in between, like the lasers can only affect one assembly table at a time. That's not exactly a problem per se, but it's something to keep in mind. Let's turn on the engines, I'm going to need more energy. These two lasers are not doing anything, and now they will be doing something. Let's actually turn those two cells to be... Okay, so those two backlog recipes that was kind of getting stuck in my assembly tables that I'm not really sure why are finished. Again, so let's give it a quick test. So if I try to craft, let's say I want to craft a golden AND gate, what's going to happen? I'm going to ask for one. It's going to dump the materials to create a golden chipset into this assembly table. And it also already dumped all the wires to create the rest of the gate. So I don't know if this is intended or not. It's kind of strange. I don't know if it's supposed to do that. If I recall correctly, usually it kind of waits until it already has the rest of the materials, but apparently it didn't wait. Nevertheless, the moment this redstone chipset will finish, and let's use the magic of video editing. Okay, so the moment this redstone chipset finishes, it loops back into the system, get dumped into this relay because it's a part of the recipe, and now creates the golden AND gate. Now again, the golden OR gate is not being auto-crafted from this assembly table because it's not a part of the recipe. It's being crafted from here, but I'm not asking for it at the moment, so that's that. Alright, kind of maybe a little bit complicated. I won't disagree if you'll say it is, but it's pretty much completed. There could be some modifications in the future, since there may be some issues caused by what's going on here. But this is pretty much the first feature that I wanted to implement. At the moment, by demand, I can autocraft both golden AND gates and golden OR gates automatically. So this is kind of awesome. This is what I wanted to get, and this is what I've gotten. Pretty awesome, mainly because it's working. Alright, so as I've said in the beginning of the episode, this is episode 160. There will be a download available in the description below to the world as it is right now. The system to manage whether or not those engines are running is not yet in place, so I'm actually going to go ahead and turn them off manually at the moment. I don't want them to explode or anything like that. But this is implemented at least, so that's kind of awesome. I'm gonna complete the project hopefully in the next episode, and if not, then in the next one after that. Okay, so as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. And if you're still here, I just realized I derped and the energy tesseract was sent to send only, so now it's set to receive only. My bad.